Call the meeting to order.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 at 9 a.m. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon.
Let's stand for the pledge.
Moment of silence, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you, first of all, grateful and thankful that you allowed us to gather in these chambers today. We ask by the power of your Spirit that you help us make good and prudent decisions on the behalf of the city and its residents. We ask that you comfort those who are in mourning today, and we always ask you to shine a special light on the least fortunate. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion accepting the minutes of the March 15th, 2023 City Council meeting and bills for payment on April 7th and April 14th. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson.
All right, we've got two presentations today. The first one will be by Bishop Dwayne Brock regarding the Parade Street Development Project.
Good morning, Council. I have some handouts to the council members.
Thank you.
Is that enough? A couple more.
Just no.
Teresa,
Thanks, Chris.
and you guys. And then I'll just get it after.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to come before City Council. As you know, I am Bishop Dwayne Brock. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Eagles Nest Leadership Corporation, local pastor of Victory Christian Center, the Chief Executive Officer of the School of Academic Distinction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've been serving in the Erie community for the last 43 years. It is stated that I am the longest serving clergyman within the city of Erie. That being said, I thought it would be proper for me to bring a somewhat of an overview and a report to City Council of the work that we have been doing, the work that we have done, of course, on Parade Street, and what we intend to do from this point on. The handout that you have gives an overview of all of the work, and we wanted you to know, as the leaders of our city, that this is a multi-million-dollar investment in an area of our city that has been historically marginalized and disenfranchised across the years. And I want to reemphasize that reality, that this is a multi-million-dollar investment. I want to, of course, thank the backing of Erie Insurance, Mr. Tom Hagan and Mr. Tim DeCastro, and the family of Erie Insurance has been behind us 100%. UPMC Hospital has been behind us 100%. The Erie Housing Authority, they've been behind us 100%, and other entities that are making a major investment there on Parade Street. The concentrated area is from 6th and Parade to 12th and Parade. I serve on the board of Erie Bank, and I am excited about Erie Bank and what they have done. The major announcement that Erie Bank has made that they're going to place a bank and training center right there on 10th and Parade. This is, again, that alone is a multi-million-dollar investment on that property that is owned by the East Side Renaissance. And so the sign has been made, and within the next couple of days, the sign will go up on the property, future home of Erie Bank Resource Center. It will also be a training center for those needing financial literacy, first-time home buyers, et cetera, et cetera. That is huge, because in the economic downturn in the United States of America, there is no bank really that is building any type of facility, especially within a poor neighborhood. But the powers that be at Erie Bank and the parent bank, County National Bank, they're headquartered in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. They've been to Erie several times, scoped out the land. They've seen our pro forma and all of the documentation. The lease has been signed, and so the bank is coming. There's a building right there on 10th and Parade right now. At the end of the month, that building will be torn down. A fence will be there, and again, we're looking by this time next year, there will be a full-fledged economic resource center right there on 10th and Parade, and we're pretty excited about that. Not only will there be a bank, but we are in negotiations with UPMC Hospital, and they are intent on putting some type of medical facility right there on Parade Street between 6th and 12th Street, property that we own. And so again, they are making a major investment to the city of Erie and a major investment to the residents there on the east side. We are excited about UPMC. I've talked with one of the officials even this morning, and again, they are intent, and they are in the process of presenting a letter, not a letter of intent, but a letter of commitment that they will be putting some type of medical facility right there on Parade Street. Not only that, but we are looking to place a public safety facility right there on Parade Street as well. We have letters of intent, letters of commitment from the City of Erie, the police department of the City of Erie. We have letters of commitment from the Sheriff's Department of the county. We have letters of commitment from the District Attorney's Office, from adult probation and juvenile probation, that they want to have a presence right there in the public safety building, right there on Parade Street. Our responsibility, I believe, is to make Parade Street a place where citizens can feel safe and that they can walk up and down Parade Street. So we want to clean it up, fix it up, and do everything that we can to make that happen. Thank God for Erie Insurance. We have to date, I believe, 24 properties that we own, and so we're in the process of bringing renovations to each of those properties, and at a later date, I can present a prospectus of those properties, the assessment values of those properties to City Council if necessary. So this is a very, very serious investment that we are making in Parade Street. Erie Insurance, the Erie Housing Authority, UPMC Hospital, and then the government agencies of the county and some of the city coming together to make something very positive happen right there on Parade. We are hoping to speak with the Erie School District to have some of the young people at Erie High to come and to be trained in the trades and working to fix up and refurbish some of the properties right there. We also have some entities out of town very much interested in coming to Erie, moving their operation to Erie, Pennsylvania, right there on Parade Street. So it is a win-win opportunity and a win-win situation for everybody. And as the founding chairman of the Eastside Renaissance, I wanted to bring that report to City Council, and I am hoping and praying that City Council will be involved and that City Council will help us, please help us to make this thing happen within our community. As we speak right now, and as you know, there is an exodus of young people, especially in the minority community, that's leaving Erie, Pennsylvania, because they believe that there is no opportunity for development, no opportunity for work here in Erie. I want to change that dynamic. I believe that through my contacts and my network and work that we have done, we can change that dynamic and make Erie, Pennsylvania a place for everybody, all of Erie, a place for everybody to come and to live a wholesome, hearty life and to make investments. There is no reason why people are leaving Erie because they cannot find opportunity. Erie is a place of opportunity. Talking with my great friend John just now and what's going on in the downtown district, we want the same thing to happen right there on Parade Street. And I believe that with the help of City Council, we can make that happen. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and if City Council can help us in any way, shape, form, or fashion, we will welcome that help. Are there any questions from any of our council members?
Mr. President, in your project, Bishop, there's a big eyesore, which was formerly the East Erie Turners. You have any plans of renovating that or tearing it down?
Absolutely, to renovate it. We are working at this point, and in our presentation, I'm not at liberty to mention the name of the entity, but there is an entity that's coming to the city of Erie. They are very much interested. They've already viewed the East Erie Turners. They're very much interested in placing their operation right there at the East Erie Turners. And we have been in negotiations with GDIC, and I want to say that GDIC as well has been such a phenomenal force that GDIC, to our city council, GDIC has given us well over $600,000 to make some positive investments right there on Parade Street. And we're talking with GDIC even as we speak now, because they want to do something else to help us and formulate this and to make an investment to create generational wealth, especially within the minority community right here in Erie, Pennsylvania. So, a long answer, Mr. Witherspoon. Yes, indeed, we definitely have positive plans to refurbish the East Erie Turners.
I commend you, Bishop, for everything you're doing. I'm very excited. Tomorrow I'm doing a neighborhood tour with your director, Tim Shannon, so very much looking forward to that. Some things that I hear when you say clean it up, move in outsiders, is potentially displacing lower income residents in the area. What are some active things that you're doing with Eastside Renaissance to prevent that displacement?
Eastside Renaissance, I believe, and I stated this from the very beginning, thank you for the question, that we want to rebuild the infrastructure of Parade Street. Now, when I use the word infrastructure, I'm not just speaking about bricks and sticks and concrete. I'm talking about the infrastructure of people. There is really no reason why people ought to be moved out of the Parade Street area. No reason whatsoever. That's their home. But people need to be trained. For an example, I'm chairman of the board of the Erie Housing Authority, and we have a first-time home buyers program. We have 3 houses at this point that we want to train people in financial literacy to come and to buy those homes right there around the Parade Street area. Not moving them out, but let them buy homes right there on Parade Street, in the Parade Street vicinity, and teach them how to fix up their home, keep their home, teach them financial literacy. We have a working relationship with Ralph Ford and Penn State Barron right there at the Eagles Nest. They're going to be involved with the Financial Literacy Resource Center right there at Erie Bank on 10th and Parade. So the entity is, of course, Erie Bank and the Housing Authority, also Penn State Barron, being involved, again, not moving residents out, but training residents how to buy a home and to keep a home and how to budget and all the dynamics of financial literacy. Again, building them up. People are the most precious resource that we have. And God forbid if we ever get to the point that we don't invest in people within our neighborhood. So that's what this is all about. People will make the Parade Street corridor a great opportunity. Hopefully that answers your question just a little bit.
Hello, Bishop Brock. I know based off of a conversation we had previously, I had mentioned that the EMTA currently doesn't have a bus route that drives straight directly up Parade. Have you had any conversations with them in regards to that concern?
Yes, our director, Tim Shannon, I've instructed him to step into that situation to make sure that there is a bus route right there. Anything and any change that we need to make where everybody can feel at home right there on Parade Street, we're prepared to do that. And so, again, we've talked with Tim Shannon. I've given him that instruction to talk with EMTA to make sure that that happens. So, yes, ma'am, most definitely.
And a second question. I know that we have the food hall and we have Gordon's Market, I believe is what it's called. But have we looked into an actual healthy grocery store for the Lower East Side? We are in a food desert / food swamp in that area, and people have to take 2 bus routes to get to a grocery store to afford affordable food.
Ms. Flores, you are reading my mind. Most definitely. Okay. We're looking into, I wish I could have a private meeting with council because I'm saying a whole lot that I'm trying to hold back on, but nevertheless, we're definitely looking into having a great grocery store right there on Parade Street. And some of you know me, Mr. Brzezinski, we go back 40 years, for crying out loud, that if I say something, I'm going to get it done one way or another. So I'm not talking about 3 or 4 years from now. I'm talking about immediately. We want to have a grocery store right there on Parade Street where seniors do not have to catch the bus and go elsewhere for their basic food needs. So but in the implementation of a grocery store, we want to train young people in the dynamics of customer service. We want to have a grocery store that's lit up, that is bright, no loitering whatsoever, but we want young people to work there at a grocery store, understanding produce, understanding finances, but understanding the importance that everybody is needed, necessary, and important, and talking to customers like they want to be talked to, and having a pristine customer service. So you are right on and spot on, most definitely. A grocery store is in the making for Parade Street.
That's what I like to hear.
Bishop Brock, if I may say something, I'm excited. I'm on a whole Fourth by Wallace is the way the Polish people used to say it. Wow. That's where I was brought up. And knowing that you're a big part of this gives us even more faith, knowing that it's going to be done the right way. I could sit down and tell you from Dr. Miller on 6th Street to Tony D'Angelo's TV sales and repair on 10th Street. and I can go up and down Osiki Music. This is our home country.
Yes.
Miss Flores was on 5th and Wallace. I, a couple centuries ago, was brought up on 4th and Wallace. How about the Dairy Queen? Are we going to bring that back? We used to live there in the summertime.
Right. But you know,
I just want to thank you.
But thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. But if council, and we can't do this without your involvement. It's an impossibility. I'm not a good politician. That's just not me. But we can't do this without your involvement. We need council's involvement and council's leadership to make this thing happen. There are elements of frustration and agitation that I have, and I do want to talk to council privately to let them know what those frustrations and agitations are. But I've always believed in service in our community. The Eastside Renaissance began as a conversation between Tom Hagen and myself. And me and Mr. Hagen go back 35 years. And we talked about taking the development of Erie Insurance and what they are doing, taking that right up Parade Street. And he said, well, we need somebody to be the leader in this thing, and I'm the man to make that thing happen. And so we're taking that right on up Parade Street. We have an office, Eastside Renaissance office, that's being renovated right now, right next to the Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so we're welcoming everybody to come there. We're renovating that as we speak. So all of these dynamics, I believe that if we all work together to make something positive happen within our community, we can make it happen. And there's no reason why people leave Erie, Pennsylvania. And I made that point before. We can have people right here in our hometown. It doesn't matter, white, black, Hispanic, polka dot, I don't care what color you are. This is our home. And we have to invest in our home. There's no reason walking up and down Parade Street that there's garbage on the streets. Or you have trees growing up in the middle of the concrete, cracking the concrete. It's no reason whatsoever for that type of dynamic to happen where we live. So people drive up and down. I have Weber Murphy and Fox Architectural Firm. There's so many entities that are on board to make this thing happen, but we need council's leadership. We really, really do.
Bishop Brock, I just want to say one thing.
Yes, sir.
How are you today, first of all? Are you originally from Erie?
I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Been here since June of 1980.
Okay, so 43 years, you've been over 40 years. So you could have chose to took your expertise, your drive, your ideas back to Cincinnati if you wanted to.
Councilman Troop, as a presiding bishop, I have 100 churches up under my jurisdiction. I've been offered situations literally all over the country to go and to pastor and to develop ministry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whether anyone believes me or not is really not the issue, because I really don't give a squat about that. Erie is my home. And my responsibility is to make Erie a better place. And you know this as an educator. I buried more kids in this city, Mr. Brzezinski, you know that. I buried more kids in this city than all other local pastors combined. And I'm tired of that. And I think together, there's no reason why we can't make a difference. I know there's a cultural shift right as we speak, but there's no reason why we can't make, I'm sorry to rant on, but there's no reason why we can't change that dynamic with the work that Councilman Witherspoon does with I've seen him operating with these young people. We can make a concerted investment in our communities where everybody can have a sense of hope. Hope. Without hope, people die. Without hope, there's no expectation, no anticipation for anything without a sense of hope. Our responsibility is to provide hope. So I have, Mr. Troop, and I'm proud and happy. You know, Tom Hagen has been with me 100% through this whole ordeal, walking with me, going to meetings with me. He was with me at a meeting here the other day because he wants to see some things happen. You know the work that he's doing, and you know the work that Erie Insurance is doing. Long answer, I could have gone anywhere in this country to do what I do, but I choose to do it right here in Erie.
That's what I want to say. Thank you for keeping it here and helping generations of people to believe and have hope, like you said.
Well, thank you for the work that you do as well, Mr. Troop. I really appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Other questions from?
One more comment from me.
Sir.
You got me. From hello, actually.
Thank you.
Because you're you. Let's keep it up. I'm here when you need me.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. I appreciate that. Anything else?
Thank you, Bishop Brock.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank council for taking the time and tolerating my rants and raves, but I really believe in the Parade Street project, and we can make a difference right here where we live. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Persinger?
That's a tough act to follow, so, but I appreciate having the opportunity to be here this morning with you all. Council, thank you so much. My name is John Persinger. I'm the CEO of the Erie Downtown Development Corporation, and I wanted to provide you an update on our 12 projects that we've been working on in downtown, and most importantly, be available to answer any questions you might have. In front of you, you should have a handout, and we'll walk through it. At the start of this handout, you'll see that there are some photos. These are photos taken from the buildings when we acquired them. As some of you may recall, in 2016, the city had a comprehensive plan that was done, Erie Refocused. The comprehensive plan identified a number of blighted, abandoned, vacant, underutilized properties across our city, but particularly in our downtown core, and suggested that something needed to be done with it. And that's why our organization was formed, to take on some of these underutilized properties in downtown. As employee number one on March 12, 2018, and there was no guidebook, no how-to manual. We had to go out there and acquire properties and get to work on them. But we were able to assemble 12 properties across 3 blocks right in the heart of downtown. As you go through, there's a slide that provides an overview of the build-out of these projects when they are completed. We've grouped them into different blocks. Very simply, Block 1, which is North Park Row, Block 2, which is the block at the corners of 5th and State and 5th and Peach, and Block 3, which consists of 4 historic properties that are at the intersection of 5th and State. On Block 1, some of you may be aware that we've completed a few of those projects. The former Park Place and Sherlock's buildings are now home to Erie Food Hall, Flagship City Food Hall, which features 9 vendors, a full-service bar, seating for 160 under one roof. As we call it, it's the community's dining room. We welcome everybody at any time to come in. You don't have to purchase anything, but we wanted it to be a community space. There's 13 apartments on the upper floors of that building. At the west end of the block, in the former Dispatch building, we have Flagship City Public Market. Councilwoman Flores mentioned that we have Gordon's Market, which came downtown, Erie Food Cooperative, which opened their 2nd location, Luminary Distilling, which opened up in the city for the first time. 3 great partners that allowed us to create this market and address this food desert issue in downtown. On the upper floors, there are 15 apartments. In the middle of that block, we have our last 2 projects. It's the former Marlena Place building, which will get restored, And then there will be a new building that goes in. If you've been past that block, there's a gap. It was originally the home of the Park Opera House. That opera house was built in 1860, stood until 1939 when caught on fire and they tore it down. It was replaced with a Greyhound bus station. We work very closely with the National Park Service, which oversees the Registry of Historic Places. That block is a historic district, and the National Park Service, along with the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission, was encouraging of us going back to the original architecture on that block, going back to something that looks similar to the Park Opera House. So this spring we'll get started on a new building that will go in that place. It will feature 3 new retail shops, more apartments on the upper floors. There will be an indoor courtyard that connects the food hall to the market. We are blessed to have great weather today, but sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows, and we want to create more community spaces. And there will also be some green space. We have a number of residents who have dogs and other pets, and they've been looking for a spot where they can allow pets off a leash, so we'll have some green space that is fenced in so residents can take their animals outside. Again, that should get started this spring and should hopefully be finished mid to late next year. On block number 2, which was a collection of surface parking lots and former McDonald's building, we're making great progress. Parking garage structure is completed. First 2 floors are open. It will, when it opens in its entirety, have spaces for 312 monthly and daily visitors. At the corner of 5th and State, we have a new building that is almost done. Ascend Climbing Gym is going to open a climbing gym on the first 2 floors. I hope we can have a council meeting in that building because there's an incredible 4-story wall that's going to go in. It's unlike anything you will find in the tri-state area. We talk a lot about turning downtown into a destination, not only for people in our community, but for the millions of people who live within a 3-hour driving distance of Erie. And this 4-story wall, it's going to be unlike anything that those folks are going to have in their hometown. So we look forward to welcoming them to Erie when that gets done, probably later this summer. The residential units are just about finished. We are waiting on electrical sockets. As I'm sure you're well aware, there are a lot of supply chain issues still happening in the world, and we've been fortunate to stay on schedule for most projects. We will hopefully have these electrical sockets over the next few months, which will allow us to plug in appliances, test them, get residential units powered up, and then hopefully open up to residents in June. And we're hopeful because there are 30 apartments on the upper floors. And we haven't done any advertising, haven't done any promotion, but 9 of those 30 apartments are already claimed. The 42 apartments that we have already built out are leased. They were leased in a matter of weeks. And so that's why we've been trying to build more residential units as fast as we can. That's a good segue to the other side of that block. At the corner of 5th and Peach, we do have a new building that's going to wrap around the parking garage. So you're not going to see the parking garage from street view. We talk a lot about controlling that ground floor experience and cultivating an Erie experience when you're walking on that ground floor. We don't want folks walking past parked cars or empty storefronts or vacant surface lots. We want them walking by great local businesses, restaurants that are full of life, cafes that have music flowing out of it. And so that's what's going at the corner of 5th and State. 5th and Peach. There will be 3 new retail spaces and 32 residential units on the upper floors. That project should be done this fall. The last, and that is critical, I want to, while I have that moment, while we're on that project, give a great appreciation and thanks to the mayor and the city for allowing us to close 5th Street for construction equipment and materials. We own the majority of the properties on both sides of that block, and having 5th Street to position construction equipment and supplies and have laborers down there has made our work a lot easier. It's made our work a lot faster, and so I want to say again thank you to the mayor, the administration, and the city for allowing us to do that. That being said, we're eager to get Fifth Street open. We want people coming down. We want it unobstructed to vehicles and pedestrian traffic. So when that project gets done at 5th and Peach, our goal is to get the construction equipment off 5th Street and get that back opened up to cars and people. The last set of projects that we've been working on are at the corner, the northeast corner of 5th and State. They're a collection of historic properties. We have some great ground floor businesses in those properties. Glass Growers is one, Erie Apparel. Several of these have moved in. Erie Apparel, Talk Erie radio station. Rita's opened up as new. The owner of the Subway franchise, he's a local business owner. She opened up the Rita's. Point 4 Women's Boutique, Primo Tailoring, She Vintage Women's Boutique, and Bricks, a new restaurant at the Cashier's House, are all great local businesses. The work that we're doing here consists of about $100 million all in. And there's no taxpayer dollars at all involved. It's all private money. We couldn't do this work without our great board organizations who are investing, without our partners in these investments, and most importantly, without all these great local businesses. As I've mentioned a few, Gordon's, Erie Food Cooperative, all these shops at 5th and State, we can get buildings, renovate them, open them up, but they really don't take on a life, they don't take on a soul until these businesses get it opened. You'll see in there's just a slide that's talking about the apartments. I mentioned we do have 42, they're all leased. We'll have 30 at 5th and State done this year, hopefully by June, 32 at 5th and Peach later this year, and then the remaining will come with the building in North Park Row in the middle to late of 2024. We tried to move as quickly as possible. Despite COVID, despite supply chain issues, labor shortages, inflation, increased interest rates, we've been fortunate to do all this work in the last 5 years. When I started, as I mentioned, I was employee number 1. I didn't have an office. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have an email address. I didn't even have a piece of paper and a pen. So true startup, and we've since grown. We have 20 employees, 16 full-time, 4 part-time, all local individuals, and that is just when you're looking at the next slide, the total economic impact of these 12 projects. Those 20 are not included in this total count of employees. You'll see there's a stat in there that there's going to be over 250 new jobs in these 12 projects, and that comes from our partners on those ground floors. These ground floor businesses are hiring lots of people, and they're all local folks, and that's great to see. I mentioned it's going to be about $100 million all in, and trying to keep construction costs under control as best we can. As you all know, it's been a crazy time over the last few years. We'll probably hit that $100 million with these final 2 projects that will get going this spring. One thing that I wanted to point out today, which I've pointed out in the past, when we bought these 12 properties, the previous owners were paying $176,185 in property taxes. That's city, county, school district taxes. We got spot assessed after we bought them because we overpaid for those properties. We got bumped up to about $240,000. So overnight, the city, the county, and the school district saw a 30% increase in the revenue being generated for you from these projects. When it's all said and done, we should probably be paying close to $2.5 million in property taxes. That's a 14 times return for the city, the county, and the school district without putting a single dollar in. And although we are a nonprofit, our board voted early on to be paying property taxes, so we've figured out how to make that work on these projects. While we are very adamant that our mission is to transform downtown through property development, we know it's not enough to just open doors and get people to come downtown. So we have to be intentional about what we do. We have to put on different events and activities that will get people to come downtown. We've had a curling league, we've had a cornhole league, but some of the activities that I'm most proud of, which you've seen over the last few months as we've opened up the food hall and the market, are some family-friendly, open to the public, no cost, arts, crafts, scavenger hunt type events We welcome everybody from the downtown, the surrounding neighborhoods, and around the region to come and enjoy and take part in these activities. We had over 800 people come to our trick-or-treating event last Halloween, and so I've already told the team for next year, you better triple the candy supply because we better get triple the amount of folks this upcoming year. We've done a downtown and Bayfront sculpture walk with Erie Arts and Culture, and some of those sculptures will be rotating out this upcoming year, and so we're looking forward to replacing them. But again, we know it's not enough to just focus on getting properties opened up. We have to be intentional about how we get people downtown. With that, I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'm also happy to allow you to get back to the work at hand.
Mr. President, if I may, the elephant in the room, what's going on? Molly's gone? Brannigan's?
So that is not our building, and we don't own it, so I don't know what is the arrangement with those owners.
I just saw the for lease sign on there. I was wondering.
So I don't know the different relationships between businesses and the owners of buildings we don't own. What I can tell you, though, is we have all of our ground floor commercial spaces filled. We have a waiting list of commercial tenants. People want to get down here today, and as you just heard, our next round of retail spaces won't be available until mid to late 2024. So what we've been doing is working with other property owners in that area and connecting them with these businesses who are interested in opening up in downtown. If people can get those storefronts turned around, those other business owners, that's a win for everybody in the community, and that's why we've been happy to help them try and identify good tenants.
Thank you.
We do that service at no charge, too.
How's the traffic in the grocery stores? Is it going pretty good? Or?
It's been going well. One of the things that we've learned is the challenge of changing people's shopping habits. Our biggest competitor for downtown residents are the Dollar General and the Rite Aid that are up State Street. A lot of individuals who have been living down here for quite some time got used to shopping there, and so we've been trying to educate folks that they now have another option in downtown. It's got healthy foods and also any type of food. If you have dietary restrictions, if it's not there in the store, they can find it. The co-op and Gordon's do a fantastic job of working with customers to get whatever they need. The vendors also accept SNAP, EBT, WIC, any type of governmental benefit, so we've been educating downtown residents that those are acceptable at the market. We've had these conversations with Bridgeway Capital, which is part of the Healthy Foods Financing Initiative across Pennsylvania, to figure out what lessons we could learn from other communities. They've really pointed back to just comes down to education, education, education. As you know, it's tough to get people to change their shopping habits, change their just kind of consumer behaviors. So that's what we're working on. But again, fortunately, we've got great partners who are in it for the long haul, and so they're willing to take that time as we work through that education process.
If you could you please speak to like the long-term sustainability of EDDC? Obviously, it's a massive financial investment, and I understand that it's mostly private. Given that you are a nonprofit and that we hope that these investments will have real long-term impact, what are some of the things that you're doing as an organization to ensure that you are recession-proof and have long-term sustainability?
Sure. So with that question, there's really sort of, you have to look at it from, I think, two angles, because there are the buildings, the projects, and then there's the EDDC, which I'm happy to speak to both, or if you just want me to focus on one versus the other. Okay. So with the projects, again, because this is all private investment, we had to put together projects that made financial sense for investors. They're not going into it with giving away money. It's not grant money. It's not zero interest loan money. They are expecting a return, so we had to put together complex financial models that have been vetted by accountants, financial advisors, outside consultants, to make sure that these projects were not only going to be sustainable, but that they were going to generate a return for the investors. So we went through that process, and we work very closely with the Erie Downtown Equity Fund that has a board of managers that has essentially the CEOs of the board organizations are involved, so they oversee all the finances for these projects. But then your question also gets to the sustainability of the EDDC. We would not exist without our great board organizations. As you just heard, this all costs money. You can have all the ideas, all the energy in the world, but that doesn't pay for hammers, it doesn't pay for nails. You need money to make this happen. And we've been fortunate that we have great community partners, our board organizations, who have contributed to us in terms of donations and grants. I saw Nathan from National Fuel was over here, was earlier today.
He literally just walked out.
Just walked out, okay. He knew this was coming. He didn't want to get embarrassed. But we've taken a look at our sustainability over the long term, and we've worked with our executive committee and our finance committee to put together a sustainability plan. We are the primary developer of these projects. As you would have with any developer in a project, a developer charges development fees. So we charge that to the projects. We are also the manager of the properties once they get open, so we charge management fees as well. So while we were funded early on entirely by charitable contributions, that is shrinking as we get in development fees and as we get in property management fees. The development fees come with the projects. They come at different milestones, so it's an incentive for us to get these projects done and opened. And then the management fees are a yearly fee based on how these spaces are leased. So again, that's an incentive for us to get these spaces leased because that's where our revenue is tied to.
Would you be willing to share the sustainability plan with council?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me make a note before I forget.
Hey, last year there was some, you'd shared some information about the grocery store having a delivery service that was in development. Has there been any progress with that as we, we're asking about food deserts and such?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that because I should have mentioned that when I was talking about the market. We were fortunate to get a grant from the Community Foundation to buy a delivery vehicle and to buy the hardware and software for a delivery network. And I was fortunate to recruit Corey Cook, who some of you may know, away from UPS. Corey Cook's a local resident. He spent 16 years with UPS in a variety of roles, so he's got a great logistical brain and background. He's helped us build out that delivery network. You can go online, you can place a phone call and order anything from the market, and we deliver it. We're delivering within the city limits. From the market, it is free of charge. You can also order food from the food hall. There is a fee on that. It's much lower than what you would find from a DoorDash or an Uber Eats. But again, that's thanks to the Community Foundation and thanks to the work of our team building that out.
So anywhere it's delivered free. So how's that work with some of your? I know. In our clerk's office, they really love the custom-made peanut butter.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they grab most. So like you're able to just order because some of this stuff's pretty particular and custom there.
Correct.
All right. And you just order it.
That's right. And I think this is you're making a great point about how fortunate we are to have local businesses.
Yeah.
Because local businesses, you don't have to go up some big corporate chain or find someone in a corporate office that's in another city to get this request. You can walk across the street and you're going to talk to the general manager over at Gordon's. You're going to talk to the general manager at the co-op. They will find out what you need and we're going to make that happen. And again, this is a community effort. We want these projects to be a resource for the community. This is the heart of our community, this downtown. And so any way that we can provide these as a service, we're happy to do so.
What's your timeline?
I thought that was the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
As some of you may know, I am transitioning out of this role. The board is undergoing a search right now. They were accepting applications until the end of February, and they're, I believe, interviewing candidates. I have not been involved in that process because I'm rotating out. We're going back to Australia to be closer to my mother-in-law. Just as family brought us to Erie, family is bringing us back to Australia. And so we are hopeful that we'll be able to go in June. My wife and kids are here. The plan is for them to finish the school year, and I'm still waiting on my visa. It will hopefully come in the next few months, and I'll be able to travel with them. The Australian school year actually runs February to December. They have a mid-year break in late June and early July. The second semester starts July 18th. Our goal is to hopefully get over there and have a few weeks before the kids start the second half of the school year. So there will be a transition, but the strength of the organization is in our board members. We have board organizations that have been around for over 100 years, and they're going to be around for decades to come. And we now have a staff in place that can step in right away and make sure that these projects are moving along, make sure that tenants are being taken care of, and make sure that events are still happening. So it's a very bittersweet moment. I am ecstatic for my mother-in-law, who hasn't seen our kids in 3.5 years because of COVID, but I'm also sorry to be leaving Erie at this time, because it is it's such a wonderful time in the community. There's so many great things happening right now, and so many great things about to happen, and I refuse to say goodbye because I don't know when we're going, and I also don't know when we're coming back. But until then, if you have any questions at all, I'm always happy to answer them.
You got here, was it 11 or was it 12? When did you move back to Erie? 2011, 2012?
We were here this summer of 11, but then full-time 2012. Yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone else have anything? I still remember meeting you. It was Labor Day weekend that when you first moved back to town, because it was a holiday weekend. You guys popped into the church. Sarah had been attending while you were studying for the bar, but it was a holiday weekend, and the church had just started, so nobody was there. I was like, oh, there's one person, you know. So it's been appreciated knowing you these last 11, 12 years, and I know Sophia is thrilled that Olivia's finishing the school year with her. They've had a couple friends move from that classroom, and she's continually devastated in everything that I deal with having tween daughters. And so thank you for staying till the end of the school year. It makes my life easier.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Is anyone here for repository sales?
Good morning, Council. Aaron Snippert, Redevelopment Authority Executive Director. The Redevelopment Authority has put in proposals to purchase 4 lots in the East Bayfront area. Those lots are part of the East Bayfront plan and part of the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project that we are currently in the planning process of. As part of that work with Michael Baker International, we need to identify as many of the vacant lots as we can so that we can have as complete of a process and staging and phasing of that trail when that plan is completed, hopefully in late May, early June. So as part of that, we have tried to get the lots that are on the repository that are still available that were not purchased last summer by an out-of-town entity. So the 4 lots that we are there, we're planning to acquire, place into the Bayfront Greenway Trail project as an asset to that East Bayfront Greenway, or that East Bayfront neighborhood. So, any questions?
Can you share the addresses of them?
There is one at 733 East 7th Street, 605 East 8th Street, 624 Wallace, and one that is addressed as East 8th Street between 541 and 547 East 8th Street.
I feel like most of these questions don't apply to you. Have you had any code violations in the last 3 years?
Well.
And these are some of these are, we also had other interest in, so we had to make sure that they went to you instead of the other entity that was looking at them?
Right, yes. There has been some interest by another out-of-town individual to purchase lots in the East Bayfront area. You know, as you know, those out-of-town, you know, asset companies and such, you know, they are really looking at them for another purpose. We're looking at these lots to put an asset back into that neighborhood, into an area that doesn't really have a park or any amenities for the neighbors, and put that investment back into those properties and raise, you know, at least some of the quality of life in that neighborhood.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for repository sales? Anyone else for repository sales? Anyone else for repository sales? We now open it for public comments.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, Administration representatives. My name is Mike Vitale, 2722 Green Garden Boulevard, Erie, Pennsylvania. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank City Council for letting us view the public session, the session last night, the study session last night regarding the Green Garden Bike Pathway as proposed by Active Erie. The first thing I'd like to just to address would be, we've talked, and was mentioned a lot at the meeting last night about the communication aspect between the City of Erie and the residents of Green Garden. We're beating a dead horse, but I want to point out one thing that I did have a discussion with Mr. Nelson about a few weeks ago, right after it happened, as it sent a fervor through the boulevard. It's tough to get us to have a fervor go through the boulevard, but there was a fervor that went through the boulevard when the mayor was on the Joel Natale show, and Joel Natale, who has been aware of what's going on Green Garden, asked the mayor that the Green Garden Boulevard residents are saying that there is a mixed messaging coming from the administration. And the mayor said, I can understand that. I've had a consistent message with them. Take that for what it's worth. Receive one message on a Friday, receive one message on a Saturday. All right, inconsistent messaging by the communications department or by the mayor. All right. Also, we were told at the public meeting that flexible dividers weren't even an option anymore. They weren't going to be on the table. They were in the survey. All right. Let's go back to the session from last night. The representative from the consulting firm had a few comments that I did a visual walkthrough this morning on my morning walk before I went to my job, and just a couple points of what she brought up. First of all, at the initial meeting, we talked about that you cannot ride your bicycle on the sidewalk, okay, and over the age of 16 and blah, 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 and it's a state law and it's, you know, everything else. That ordinance was written in 1964. So I will volunteer to come down to the mayor's office and give him my 50 cents so I can get my bicycle license and my tag to put on my bike. That's what is also included in that ordinance. So maybe that ordinance needs to be revisited. I don't know. All right, all right. Last night it was said that it's a state law, all right, that we cannot have a parking lane with a bike path. Thanks to Mr. Nelson's due diligence, because we did our due diligence, no law existed or exists. All right, which now would require City Council to do a work for the administration and prompt an ordinance that would prohibit the parking. All right, if the vote comes to be that you are going to do that, I'm not going to speak for the Green Garden Boulevard residents, but I am a law-abiding citizen. I will abide by that law, and whatever ordinance that the city comes up with regarding the parking on Green Garden Boulevard, I will abide by. If that means I have to put money away, so when I have a baptism at my house, a birthday at my house, a wake at my house, I don't have to restrict my attendees by the amount of cars I can park in my driveway. I will pay the fine. All right. I had spoken to the UPS driver, the United States Postal Service, Amazon, and FedEx. They are not permitted to back out of a driveway when they're making a delivery. All right. We won't even go down that path anymore because the mayor has made his recommendation. All right, the mayor has made his recommendation. He's going to propose that you guys vote on the bike path with no parking on it. They're going to put signs up, no parking signs up. All right, great idea. Put the no parking signs up. Little story. 2 weeks ago, now my neighbors make fun of me because they think I'm obsessed with the sycamore trees on our beautiful street. For 6 or 7 years, I've been calling Sarah Galloway, asking her to take a look at the trees. The Parks Department came out last week and said they were trimming some trees. I said, great, guy, what prompted this? They said the administration received complaints from truck drivers saying the trucks were hitting the tree branches. Go to the corner of 26th and Green Garden right now. There is a 3-foot by 3-foot sign that says no trucks on the boulevard. So much for the signs.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for your time.
Ian Murray, fellow Eddie, good to see you, Mel. I'm here really to honor an individual that's sitting on the dais as a council member. I've been in this building since Mrs. Horton took me in here in 1963 to my first Erie City Council meeting. And then in 1976, when Fred Rush and I met, and we were running Larry Meredith's successful city council campaign, when the mayor taught me 3 lessons. If you want to be mayor, remember 3 things. Remember to have institutional memory around you, meaning keep people around you that know what they're doing, and that don't lose the heart of the building. But the most important thing since I was on council is remember this. And I said, Mayor, what are you talking about? He said, 4. It's not the president, it's not this, you need that 4 votes. But I'm also here to honor and speak to the memory of my fellow council members that have gone. Jim Thompson, Mario Bagnoni, Jim Casey, all dear friends of mine that I worked with and served with. And I just wanted to come here to honor them and their memory, because without them, none of us would be where we're at. They were great people, and their memory deserves note. But I'm really here to honor my dear friend, Mel Witherspoon, who I've worked with for a long time. I came all the way down from Maine because I wanted to come here to speak to Mel Witherspoon and his service over a long period of time. I've known Mel since we worked on Larry Meredith's campaign back in 1976. God, I listened to your basketball games in 1964 with my little wire radio with my earphones, and Ben Wiley, Willie Alford, Glenn Summers, Al Lawson. I know them all because I was listening to them. But I really have enjoyed you over the years. I love serving with you. You were always a gentle soul. You were strong. You always cared about the community. And I'm a better person having known you and having you in my life. So I have this photo of Mario. I don't want to approach, but maybe someone could give it to you. Thank you. And yourself, when we were commemorating the Wiley Center, and we were all there. So I thought you might like that, Mel. Show your friends, because Mario Bagnoni's in that picture, and we're in the Bagnoni Hall. And I do miss everyone here, but it's an honor to be here with all these, my fellow council members of sorts. I know most of you, but I know of all of you. And I think you're all worthy of respect, and keep up the good work. And thank you, President, for allowing me to speak a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Ian.
Okay, thank you, guys. Oh, and I also want to say, I can't not talk about Mayor Lou Tullio. Lou Tullio and I fought many times, but I learned so much from him. In fact, I wouldn't have been chairman because the Canavino people voted me for the second ballot for county chair in '86. When all the Tullio's handpicked candidate, we beat him on the second ballot. The phone was ringing the next morning. Mayor Tullio wants me in his office. So next morning, I just beat his candidate. I was with Canavino people. You know the history, Eddie and Mel. But I went up there. He put his arm around me. Ian, I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to be there. And true to his word, when he got sick, he sent me to Atlanta to represent him as a delegate at the convention, which started me on my 30 years on the Democratic National Committee, all because of Mayor Louis Tullio, a good man, a good mayor, and all of you are good people.
Hey, you remember, your name's still on the board, right?
On the board?
It's still on the
Oh,
board.
it's there somewhere.
On the back side of my nameplate
Well, that's
is
good.
Murray.
That's good. Hopefully I'll bring the good luck part of my life to you and not the bad luck, so you have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
that.
We'll see you later, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Oh, I love you, buddy.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. My name is Dominic Bazanco. Addresses are 3610 Harvard Road, Erie, and 4724 Cherry Street, Erie. I came here today to talk about our neighborhoods, my neighborhoods. When this mayor ran initially, he campaigned with a slogan of warm, welcoming neighborhoods. Now, we've already been down the road of how much he's willing to sink into his neighborhood, and we've crossed that bridge. Okay? So now let's talk about my neighborhood on 4724 Cherry Street. I moved there with my parents in 1977. I hold that house in trust. I stay there a couple days a week, take care of my mother, watch around the house, the typical things a responsible son should do. 1977, a big Goomba like my dad was one of the last things some people in Glenwood ever wanted to see. In Glenwood, when it was started, all but 2 of you would not be allowed in that neighborhood. Now, fortunately, those times have changed. What has not changed in Glenwood is the zoning. Now, I don't know if it's some trendy thing to do and adding Airbnbs in the middle of one of the few neighborhoods that hasn't been dissolved by a nonprofit, by a hospital, by a school. We've all seen our neighborhoods dissolve. Rentals becoming unkept. Code enforcement, the biggest joke in town, not doing enough to take care of it. And now you're considering and have been considering adding an Airbnb clause into that neighborhood. Why would you ever consider assaulting a neighborhood like that and turning it into the Kelso Beach on top of the hill? It never has been a rental neighborhood. It's never been a neighborhood with people coming in left and right, willy-nilly, from weekend, whatever. And you all know it. Now, 3610 Harvard Road, that's my primary residence. I got a call last week from across the street neighbor. I've been there since 1995. 4 doors up, 87 Cathedral Prep classmate of mine. The door next to him, 95-year-old lady, she's been widowed since I moved in. The next door neighbor to me, she's a nurse. She travels all over the place to fill in blanks in different hospitals around the country. Me, I've been there since 1995. My next door neighbor on the corner, she's been there probably 2 years after me. Her husband died about 7 years ago. Across the street from her, 2 City of Erie employees, school district employees, a former wrestling coach as well, an electrician. Across the street, that neighbor, 3607, she just moved out. Now, she told my next door neighbor across the street, I had no idea she was moving. She moved out, sold her house privately to a realtor who informed her, who eventually told my 90-year-old neighbor, that they're planning on using that house as an Airbnb. Now, I got a picture here. I'd love to show everyone you. 3 hours after that woman moved out of her house, this is what that landlord's left on that goddamn, excuse me, that's my construction worker breaking out on me. That's what's breaking out on my, right across the street from my house. They got everything laid out on the garage, on the driveway. Now, you take your chance of who's going to move into the neighborhood when somebody sells a house. You roll the dice on that, okay? I know my neighbors. And right next door to that little old lady, 90 years old, her husband was the first friend I made. He welcomed me to the neighborhood in 1995. Next to her, there's a state employee and a nurse. We've been there. We know each other. We know what's going on in our neighborhood. I work out of town. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than a bunch of nosy old widows watching what's going on in your house to take care of to take care of what's going on in the neighborhood. Now, this lady calls me, and she's worried about who's going to be there next week, who's going to be there next month, what are they going to be doing. She's worried about the typical stuff a little 90-year-old woman's going to get carried away with. And I don't blame her, because I don't know either. I don't know why you're considering bringing short-term rentals into a few of the remaining neighborhoods that haven't been dissolved by a school. Right there where I live, Harvard Road, LECOM's going to already process a killing that neighborhood with rentals. Somewhere down the road, there's a house that's being rented by the second generation. You know, they're moving down the street. You know, it's one thing, and it's a bitter pill to swallow, but that's what's happening. I give that neighborhood 5 more years before it turns into something like the Lower West Side, what Gannon did, and what Mercier's did. It's up to you to stick up for the neighborhoods instead of pawning them off into some realtor's pocket. Now, thank you for your time, and I hope you consider what I've asked you today. Have a good day.
Thanks, Tom.
My name's Freda Tepfer. I live at 1738 West 23rd Street in Erie. I just want to briefly mention for anybody listening who might be on Medicaid, you have to renew this time. It's not going to be automatic, so if you do an online search for Pennsylvania Medicaid renewal, you'll find the instructions to do it, but it's not an automatic process this year. I was involved with the Active Erie process from before there was an Active Erie process, asking for a bike and pedestrian committee. I did not get to be on the steering committee. There was almost no pedestrian representation on the Active Erie committee. There was a lot of agency people and some bike people. And I'm really disappointed that nothing that's come out of the Active Erie plan really will do pedestrians any good. One thing they could do that might help pedestrians a little bit is, in conjunction with the Green Garden project, they should ensure the completion of the sidewalk between 12th and the Bayfront Parkway on the east side of the street to create some parity between pedestrians and bicycles on Green Garden. I established the Nextdoor Baldwin Park neighborhood. I drew that and created it on the Nextdoor app. We are on the north side of 26th Street, from Green Garden to the freeway, from the railroad tracks to 26th Street. Nobody on Green Garden north of 26th Street got a letter from the city. Parking, there will be some kind of bike lane there. There are more houses closer together with short driveways. Where do the post office and the, supposedly there's no parking there. I don't know, but where is everything happening that the rich people who get listened to on the south side of 26th Street, all the things they're worried about, what's happening to the people on my side? How are they going to get in and out of their driveways and turn around? I'm not opposed to bikeways. I might get a bike if I can find the right kind for somebody of my age and bone structure. I am concerned, why is the bike path stopping at the Bayfront Parkway? Where are the bikes going to go? It should go all the way to Frontier Park with a 3-way stop at 8th Street. And yes, it's going to cost a little extra money, but what is the point of having these projects if everything that might cost a little extra money isn't going to happen? Pittsburgh is so dangerous for pedestrians. There's no sidewalks. Where the people are coming from my neighborhood who walk from 21st, there's no sidewalks. I was insulted by some of what I heard in the study session yesterday. That survey, as I think Mr. Brzezinski talked about, was slanted. You had no opportunity to say in some of the questions what you didn't want. And there was no, what's your overall opinion? I put it in there, though. Over 5 years ago, I asked Leanne Parmenter, what are they going to do about parking with a bikeway? When is there going to be public involvement? So there still has not been any consideration of my side of 26th Street. They don't care about us because we're not rich. Also, as I've said over and over again, there needs to be an ordinance in the city related to how we manage sidewalk access during construction. Persinger left, but that is one thing that EDDC did right in some places. They provided sidewalk bypass. And he talked about how they closed Fifth Street. Did they pay for the privilege of closing Fifth Street? Did the church that closed 10th and Sass forever, those sidewalks, did they pay for that privilege? There really needs to be an ordinance around that. There needs to be a traffic mitigation ordinance. I think I came in on Myrtle, and I think it might be Myrtle and 9th, but there's some new building going up, and the sidewalks are closed there, and they did sign it properly. But how long did they get the privilege for free closing the sidewalk? And if EDDC can provide sidewalk bypass on State Street, why the heck couldn't they do it on 9th Street? This is nonsense. People who live downtown, many of whom use mobility devices, have a right to get around. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emerson Bannon-Kutri. I live on 3710 Zimmerman Road on the southeast side, and I just had a few quality of life concerns for my neighborhood. Specifically, there's an issue with Zimmerman. So the neighborhood is kind of wedged in between East 38th and the Bayfront connector. And overall, people kind of use Zimmerman Road like a throughway just to get between 38th and the Walmart. And so any additional signing, kind of, reminding people that it's a residential neighborhood and not just a zoom through, would be appreciated. They're also, like a lot of east side neighborhoods, we're kind of cut off by the Bayfront connector, sort of cuts us off from Harbor Creek and a lot of the Lower East Side, and that seriously limits our ability to access any kind of services. There's no local community center, there's no local cafe, there's no library, there's no locally owned grocery store, anything. There's a serious lack of public space, and anything that you guys might know of that could help improve that, there is a real desperate need of it in that neighborhood. You have to drive several miles to basically get anywhere. There's a specific property, 3627 Zimmerman. It's actually right across from my apartment building. I believe it shares the parking lot with the Erie Housing Authority, so that they're already partly paying for the maintenance of that property, but it's currently, as far as I can tell, vacant, but I'm not entirely sure. There's currently no active tenant, at least. It used to be a Spectrum store. That would be a good place for some kind of community center, but ultimately that is a desperate need in our neighborhood. And finally, there's along with the lack of public space, there's a lack of good green space. So there's Roma Park, which is kind of in the center of the neighborhood, but so there's the Adopt a Park program. I'm unclear if there's an active group that's currently maintaining it or if it was just kind of inactive during the winter, but actually, do you guys have any information on that? No. Okay. Who would I reach out to about that? Do you know?
On our citizens response, you can get that, and then Marcelo will direct you to the appropriate spot in Public Works.
Okay. I think I filed the citizens response thing, but I'll file another one. Because I have training in environmental science, so I could help with that in terms of, since it's my neighborhood. But additionally, there is a need for more green space, but specifically better pedestrian crossings and some kind of pedestrian crossing with the Bayfront connector and like around the 38th and McClelland intersections. And there is a desperate need for a community center in that area. And I hope you guys take that into consideration with future planning stuff.
Did you send us an email as a group a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. I recall a lot of this. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm a homeowner in the city. And I want to talk about the stormwater fee and that it was calculated in a discriminatory and unfair manner. If you want to have a stormwater fee, then it must be done in a way that is fair to all homeowners and not inequitable.
Miss, we're supposed to get a name and address at the beginning. You can decline.
I mean, I don't want to give my name and address out. I think that's ridiculous to act for in this time.
We've discussed, Nick Cox, that we would not enforce it.
The address.
I mean, I can show you I can give you my driver's license if you want to look at it, but I mean, I'm not saying it. It's ridiculous in this day and age to ask for that.
The name is required by our...
Can I just give a first name?
Sure.
Michelle.
You decided to put it on the dice on the radio.
That was the... Sorry, we're working through some of those policies right now to try to give that kind of privacy, but still
Okay.
by law, by our ordinances required.
Okay, so I'll continue. Since rooftop square footage was the criteria chosen, then 100% of all rooftop surfaces on a person's property should have been factored in to what they would pay. As a homeowner with an attached garage, 100% of my rooftop surfaces were factored into the tier I'd be in, while homeowners with fully detached garages did not have the square footage of their garage rooftop factored into the tier they would be in. So people like me are paying more than our fair share, while others are paying less than theirs. In using this discriminatory method to calculate this fee, you've actually caused the city to lose out on more money to fix the failing storm drains, since who is in what tier is unfair and unequal. Detached garages aren't excluded for tax assessment and collection purposes as verified with the tax assessor's office. This means there's no excuse for how the stormwater fee was calculated. Taxpayer money was wasted in paying the firm used to come up with this questionable and discriminatory criterion. Given that most homes have gutters and drain pipes that the stormwater feeds into the ground and not the sewers, it doesn't make sense that rooftops were used. Fairness is essential, whether it's assessing fees or taxes. I expect council to correct the lack of fairness with this year's stormwater fee, and since this fee isn't going away, to ensure complete fairness for the years ahead. In closing, some of you are up for re-election, and there are new folks that want those seats. This could very well be an issue on voters' minds. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Holly Montalvo. My address is 8504 Southwest 81st Terrace, Miami, Florida. I am representing Susan Morse, Lucinda Maurer, and Kathy Whipple, who are unable to attend this meeting due to the funeral this morning of Kathy Whipple's husband. On behalf of the sisters and the 5+ years of their efforts, we all know how deeply they feel about this matter. One of their first short-term rental guests was a family who wanted to be together during a death in their own family. They were graciously hosted at the short-term rental. During this difficult time our family is experiencing, we now know even more how important it really is to have the option to have a short-term rental for tragic and unexpected events. On behalf of Susan, Lucinda, and Kathy, there are a few important things they would like me to touch on. Erie has much to offer its visitors, especially during the summer. There are the Tall Ships, Celebrate Erie, Blues and Jazz Fest, wine tours, and the list goes on. Most events are family-friendly. These families who travel to Erie are known to prefer the accommodations of a short-term rental in a safe, family-friendly neighborhood versus being crammed into a small hotel room. In the Erie Times article from this past weekend, there is a solar eclipse happening in 2024. They are projecting a potential of 260,000 visitors coming to Erie. Hotels are already being booked for this major event. Erie needs to have available housing for all it has to offer. Passing this ordinance is the way to go to ensure Erie is able to accommodate the large crowds it will continue to bring. I know you all have heard from my mother and aunts stating the facts about short-term rentals and how much of a positive impact they can have on a community. So I will not be repetitive, as I'm sure you all will greatly appreciate. They want me to express and emphasize how much they deeply care about this ordinance passing, not for their own personal opinions or financial gain, but for a community that is held very deeply in their hearts, and they only want to see it continue to progress with the times. They have witnessed firsthand the ripple effect their one short-term rental has had on their guests and revenue brought to the Erie community. Thank you for your time and have a happy Easter.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Davis. My address is 4626 Butterwick Lane in Charlotte, North Carolina. You got a different set of sisters today, so as my sister Holly already noted, we're here representing our mother and our aunts regarding short-term rentals in Erie. And obviously our family has been invested in this issue and have been kind of astonished watching from afar as this has played out and kind of how long this has taken to play out over the past few years. And I think for me personally, my own experience with short-term rentals is that I have visited them across the country, internationally, and the thing that I really appreciate about that experience is being able to get that local flair. I want to know that there's custom peanut butter somewhere, right? I mean, I want to know to go to Sarah's. I want to meet those 90-year-old ladies who are living in the neighborhood, right? My husband and I recently moved to Charlotte, and part of our buying experience was staying in short-term rentals in different neighborhoods so that we could understand what our community was going to look like and where we were really going to live and the place we were going to call home. So again, we won't belabor the point, but would just encourage you to move forward with this ordinance today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Weiser. I live at 2704 Green Garden Boulevard. I just want to go over a few things. I know we've heard probably everything that we can about this active Erie plan. But in taking the survey, there was please explain your reasoning for ranking these options, where a lot of comments were added. I don't think that was included on the information that you received yesterday in your study session. I'm wondering where are all those comments that people made, justifying what their answers were. It also was very difficult to rank the items that needed to be ranked. I did leave a message for each one of you to please try to take the survey so that you could see how difficult it was. Once you ranked one, the others all fell into line, and it was very difficult to move those around. So it kind of set up the opportunity for the answers to be ranked the way they wanted them to. It seems as though communication has gotten worse at City Hall since we've grown the communications department. The citizen response line used to be you'd call, you get a live person right away. Now you call, you leave a message, and it might be 24 hours before you get a response back. So that's not working. It was a great idea in the beginning, but it's not working now. The comment on the Google overhead snapshots in time of our neighborhood that didn't show any parked cars, I'm wondering, were those during COVID when people weren't allowed to visit or allowed to travel? Try the second Saturday in June when we have our block sale and it's wall-to-wall cars parked on our street. The other thing is, I know there's a Love Your Neighborhood program, and I think that's great. We already love our neighborhood, and we take pride in our neighborhood, and it seems like our community relationships that we have in our activities are trying to be torn down and removed by this bike lane. One other thing I just would like to read, one of my responses that we've had several interactions with people who do not live in our neighborhood and do not live in our lives day to day, but have lots of ideas about how we should be conducting ourselves on our street. So one of the responses that I had to one of them, and it took me quite a while before I would respond, I would, you kind of take this stuff and move on with your day, but we are not opposed to the bike lane, just as we have stated before. We're just asking that it be shared by the occasional biker and occasional car that needs to park on the street. This was not an option on the survey anywhere at all. If it isn't broke, why are we fixing it? Bikes are going up and down our street right now. They've been doing it for years. I understand we want a bigger infrastructure built with this, but it works the way it is right now. We love our neighborhood and beautiful tree-lined street. Understandable that people would like to enjoy it as well when they're out biking. We are willing to share that space and thought we had that compromise settled, only to be reversed 2 days later, as everyone knows. And on a side note, this is just my opinion, but this has been handled poorly by our city government. and pitted the Green Garden residents against Bike Erie. We are hardworking, mind our own business, home-owning taxpayers that have been thrown into an unnecessary fight. We have invested in the city by buying real estate and choosing to live here, most for decades. We need our lives back. Life is short, and we have used way too much of our time, energy, and resources on this bike lane project. I would hope that you would consider tabling this for now, and maybe we relook at where we can spend that money in a better option. Thank you.
I will be quick so you guys can get on to other business. I'm Jacob Jones. I live at 1403 East 38th Street. I'm here in my role as the Executive Director of Community Access Media. And I'm just here to kind of give City Council a little update on what we've been doing in the first quarter. As a recipient of City of Erie funding in the budget, I like to let you guys know what we're doing. So some fun stuff that's happening. We're starting our access to the candidates' recordings next week. So anybody who's going to be on a ballot within the City of Erie in their name, we offer this program to them. So they get 15 minutes of high-quality footage where they can talk about their positions, have an interview-style conversation. We air that on our channel, our digital platforms. It goes onto Facebook, YouTube, and we coordinate with local media to get it out there, and we run it up until primary day so that City of Erie residents can get a full look at everybody they're voting for, potentially. We're also going to be holding a debate among City Council candidates on May 15th, a live stream debate, where they can, again, with so many people running, with the seats available, we thought it was a great opportunity for the people of Erie to see kind of who's available, what's going on, what are their positions, and all those areas. Some programming updates we have. We just wrapped up a bunch of our new productions, one of which is with the Jefferson Educational Society and their winter programming, and it just so happens a lot of the points that were talked about today, we have programming on, one is the different perspective on Erie's brain drain, so that's very relevant to what the Bishop was talking about. We also have the Slap Heard Around the World, Woman in Islam, which definitely showcases some of the unique qualities that the Jefferson is bringing to our area and that people can access through our channels. We also have a new travel show, which is going to be highlighting Erie soon, called Jet Set, to get people to come to Erie more often. So again, hitting on a lot of different points there. The Widget Home Buyers Seminar. So every year Widget does a new home buyers webinar where they go over updates for new home buyers, programs, what you need to know. All of that is available on our platforms on our channel, our VOD system, Roku, and Apple TV. So if you're a new home buyer, that is free to you and commercial free as well. So far this quarter, we've had 15 different media production classes with 32 attendees from the City of Erie, covering HD editing, podcasting, running an HD studio, and running field cameras and DSLRs. And so far this year, year to date, we've had over 8,600 hours of equipment usage by City of Erie residents through our production facilities, and then 1,700 hours of facility usage so far this year as well. So I look forward to next quarter informing you more about what we're doing. Have a good one.
Hey, you'd be welcome to let me know ahead of time. We could do a presentation as the other stakeholders had done.
Awesome.
If you'd like anything longer.
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? Moving on to ordinances for final passage.
Council file number 16338, official ordinance 13/2023, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $15,000 from appropriated and anticipated revenue from Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, PEMA, for body cameras, 5 gas meters, and a calibration station. Sponsored by Ms. Faulkner, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski, the council file ordinance bill number 16338, and now known as official file ordinance 13/2023, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. City Council pass official file ordinance 13/2023 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16339, official ordinance 14/2023, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $189,090.90 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof, the contribution from FEMA, Assistance to Firefighter Grant for gear, washers and dryers, and large diameter hose. Sponsored by Ms. Faulkner, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski, the council file ordinance Bill Number 16339, and now known as official file ordinance 14-2023, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. City Council pass official file ordinance 14-2023 by yea 7, nay 0. We have ordinance 16-340, official ordinance 15-2023, and ordinance amending Articles 2, 3, and 6 of the City of Erie zoning ordinance to incorporate language for short-term rentals.
Mr. President, move to table.
Let's, I'd like to offer a little discussion before seconding that, just to make some clarification to the public on this.
Oh, yeah, it's the same old thing.
Okay.
You don't pass something until you have it in place.
Yeah. Not to belabor this point so much more. This needs to come with some updates to our Article 330, which is our rental registration. I was hoping to be able to roll those out in quick order. As Ian Murray had said earlier, you need 4 votes to pass something. I think we have 4 votes. But at times, I think it's important to build stronger consensus than just 4 or 5, or I think we had 6 on the first reading. We might have had 6. But building stronger consensus, and I'd offered council the assurance that we'd have 330 updated to go in short order in the next council meeting, and I do not have that in their hands. I did not get that in place in time. So I would like to offer a motion to table this so that we do not, without the intent of belaboring it much further, we do need to have some additional updates that will be ready to roll out before the implementation of this. So, motion to table.
So you're second?
Second then.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? I'm probably going out of order. Is there any other discussion, or did that suffice? All right. Motion to table, seconded by myself. Motion by Ed, second by me. We'll call for the vote, Lori.
A motion from the floor by Ed Brzezinski, seconded by Chuck Nelson, to table the ordinance 16-340, official ordinance 15-2023. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. Motion to table passes yea 7, nay 0.
Mr. President, once again, we're not killing this thing right now. We just want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, so that when we do move forward, we do it the right way.
Oh, yeah, I think this will still be in short order.
Okay.
Council file number 16-341, official, or it's not yet. An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Erie, Part 1, Administrative Code, Title 7, Employment Provisions, Pensions, Article 149, Firefighters Pension Fund A, by amending sections 149.04A and 2, and F regarding the service increment, and B by amending section 149.09B and adding section 149.09I regarding the partial lump sum distribution option, PLSDO. Sponsored by Ms. Faulkner, seconded by Mr. Keys, the council file ordinance number 16-341 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance 16-341 by yea 7, nay 0 on first reading. Council file number 16-342, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $600,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated liquid fuels tax fund balance and providing for the expenditure thereof. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mr. Keys, that council file ordinance number 16-342 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance 16342 by yea 7, nays 0 on first reading. Finally, Council File Number 16343, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $100,000 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for the expenditure thereof. This is the State ARP Motorcycle Grant. Sponsored by Mr. Keys, seconded by Mr. Troop. The Council File Ordinance Number 16343 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance 16343 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Mr. President, this takes us to new business.
Motion to move the balance.
Second.
Any separations?
Number 2.
Under new business?
I did that.
Number 2.
And number 16 and 18 of the contracts.
Can I separate item 7, new business, under new business, adding Downing Road to the benefit IRG?
Any other separations? Call for the vote.
Okay, I have number 2 in new business, number 7 in new business, number 26 and 24 in contracts. Any other separations?
We have that as 16 and 18.
Oh, that is, that's my number, sorry.
Okay.
16 and 18. Moving the balance of the agenda, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mr. Keys. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie, a resolution sponsored by Council Member Witherspoon appointing Dorothy Smith Frazier of 2421 Woodlawn Avenue, Erie, to the Erie Regional Airport Authority to replace Mary Beth Smialek, who has resigned. Her term will expire December 31st, 2027. Discussion?
Yeah. As the airport liaison, we're happy that Mr. Witherspoon is appointing Ms. Dorothy Smith Frazier to the Airport Authority. I've been the liaison for 4 years now, and other than the executive director, I've been the only person of color at most of the meetings, and so it is good that we get this appointment. Inclusion is very important, and so I'd like to thank you, Mr. Witherspoon, and I look forward to my airport meeting even greater now.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'm going to echo Michael's words. I've been knowing Ms. Smith Frazier she's been knowing me since I was a little baby. And you're not only getting a person of color, as Mike said, you're getting a really quality person. So which is more important. So thanks for the appointment.
Any other discussion? Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. We have number 7 in new business.
Okay, my question is, are they adding Downing Road to benefit, the IRG requirement, or what changed with the plan? From my understanding, this is a different from what we originally had.
Is this actually a public road? Because where it says Paragon Street, it would give me the impression that it would actually be in Salakio Park.
Yeah, can you just get us the answer? Because I'm kind of curious, and I have voters who are curious as well.
Did you not have a memo on it?
I probably got the memo with a list of different memos, but I didn't have enough time to notify people that it was added. And people are asking questions.
Let me see if there's a memo.
Is it important enough to table, or what do you think? It's up to you.
I just want the information so I can notify people. I don't want to put everything that's on hold just because of the minor changes that were done. I just need to know.
With your permission, sir. I must have missed the memo also, but so you want a motion to accept that?
I have a memo. It's from project engineer Chad McConnell. On the agenda is a resolution authorizing the proper city officials to amend the general reimbursement grant agreement for federal aid highway project completed on October 5th. The amendment will remove Port Access Road Bayfront to the city line from the agreement and replace it with Downing Paragon Drive. This is due to unforeseen construction phasing needed for Port Access Road. Downing Avenue was the next awarded street through the selection process by the Erie MPO Technical Advisory Committee. This project will provide for milling and asphalt services for various streets. Please contact me for any questions. Chad McConnell, extension 1373.
Thank you for the information, Lori. We can move forward.
Discussion?
No, call for the vote on that.
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yea 7, nay 0. Number 7 in contracts. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Ms. Flores. The proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to issue an agreement to Environmental Systems Research Institute, ESRI, for the change order for the Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources for a total amount of $300,800. The original contract was for $184,000. The change order is added $800 for a final contract amount of $481,200. See if I have a memo.
So this is substantial changes in this contract. a contract going from $180,000 to over $300,000, and then an additional contract going up another $44,000 for a total of $341,000 in additional costs to the city. And so, you know, we make a budget, and I don't know where these additional funds would come from if we added another nearly over $300,000 to these line items.
This was all part of the original plan. This is to implement the second phase, which is the public portal of the GIS system and Esri and Timmons, the onboarding of the GIS. It's all being paid through ARP funding, which has already been set aside. We just hadn't encumbered the total amount already. We had only encumbered the amount for the first phase. So while it's labeled a change order, it's just encumbering the rest of the funding to make the project complete.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Just remind me, we have $500,000 set aside for that, so now we're up to 300 and, oh, we had $500,000 set aside for it, and now that exhausts that bucket.
481, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yeas 7, nays 0.
That takes us to committee reports.
Nope, we have one more.
Oh.
Number 7, the proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to issue a change order agreement to Timmons Group Geospatial Solutions to add the Timmons Group portal to the existing scope of work for the implementation, training, and support of the new CityWorks platform for the Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources. The original contract was $324,300 with a change order amount of $44,680 for an updated contract amount of $368,980. I have a memo on this if there's questions.
I think
was this covered in the prior discussion?
I believe it was covered in the prior discussion. We'll ask the administration to forward those documents to City Council, including the original contracts. Yes.
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yeas 7, nays 0. Now we're at committee reports.
Mr. President, just for the record, number 7 with Spoons Basketball League, I think the record should show that I should abstain on that. I know that individual personally.
Heard he's a great guy.
Yeah. So I think I should abstain on that.
Okay. Lori, can you correct that?
Yes.
Do we need to separate it or go through any motions?
We'll go back and separate it and then vote.
Oh, you can abstain.
All right. So number 7 being separated, we just had discussion. Call for any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Calling for the vote, just to have him abstain?
Yep. I mean, yes.
This is under new business?
Contracts, number 7.
I have a different number system than
Yeah.
the actual agenda. Yeah, voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Mr. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon abstains, and Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Moving on to committee reports. Can we start with you, Ed?
Yeah. I attended both the Port Authority and the Civic Center Authority meetings. A lot of things are going on. We have 2 new directors getting their feet wet, so stay tuned. I will, especially the Civic Center Authority, there are huge shoes to fill when you talk about Casey Wells. Another thing, a long time ago, a bunch of people kind of got upset, and they wrote a document that started with "We the people," in order to, I won't go the rest of the way. They were upset because they weren't being heard. And I'm really getting nervous that our city, a lot of the folks in our city are feeling that way. I talk to people that say, yeah, I used to vote, but why do I vote? They just do what they want to do anyway. If we let this bike path go through the way they're trying to make it happen, these people are going to have to look back at me and say, I told you so. I don't want it to happen that way. There is middle ground. Either we stop it completely or we let cars and bikes live together. But I will never vote for it the way it was proposed to us yesterday. That being said, have a happy Easter.
I have a few things to report. Last week, the EMTA did have their public meeting. It is held on the 4th Monday at 4 p.m. It is Zoom currently, but they are going to be opening up to a hybrid version. Our next meeting will be April 24th. We do ask for public input on the bus service. If you're using the EMTA service, whether it's through the Lyft or regular ridership, we need feedback, because as a previous bus rider, I understand that the schedules are not rider friendly, and unless the community is more vocal about that, we are not going to get the issues that workers in our community need who cannot afford a car addressed. So if you do want to register, I recommend that you send an email the Thursday before that meeting, which would be April 20th, to the email address tcroll@ride-the-e.com. I also have a blighted property meeting next Wednesday at 9 a.m., which those meetings are done on Zoom, and you can register as well to participate in that. These are public meetings that the community can be involved in. We would love more public input. If you would like information on the blighted property, Aaron Snippett's email is redeveloperie.org. So redeveloperie.org. Number 3 on my list, I know, right? Is I went to the Women's Career Fair the city had held last week. It was geared towards hopefully getting more women to apply to the police department and the fire department. Those are great family sustainable wages with great pensions. We ask that our community is actually going and stepping into these positions of power to sustain a great, future for your future family. I also am the chair of IT Innovation and Communication, so if you would like to reach out to me directly to set up a meeting to probably address some of the concerns the gentleman had about his neighborhood and the lack of community spaces, green spaces, we can start getting those concerns addressed. My email is jflores@erie.pa.us, and my cell phone is 814-449-9624. Thank you. That's all I have.
Last week I attended the airport meeting. Unfortunately, it was the day before they dropped the big bombshell. So I don't have a report on that. That obviously substantially changes business at the airport, and so I'll keep everyone posted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Bishop Brock and Mr. Persinger for their presentation this morning. I see two major arteries in our city being developed at the same time, and with Erie Insurance developing 6th Street, I just think the future brings nothing but beauty and people in that area, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to expand to the neighborhoods from the Lower East Side upward, as well as the West Side. Thank you.
It's true.
Mr. President, for my committees, I don't have a report, but I do want to kind of talk about what Mr. Brzezinski was talking about. I think it's very important that the whole city is listened to, not just, I know one of our citizens came today and said she lives on the other side of 26th Street, and they don't feel like they're listened to. So I mean, we do have to consider the entire city. I know when I was running, there were certain parts of the city that felt like other parts of the city got more of a voice than they did in a lot of things. So we do have to consider those types of things too. Just want to mention, I do have an event going on Saturday for kids. It's an Easter basket giveaway. So if you know anybody who needs an Easter basket for their family or for their kids and their family, I've been doing this event about 12 years, thanks to generous donations from the community. We usually give about 500 baskets away to kids for free, so that's Saturday at Odessa's Place, 628 West 18th Street. It'll start at 11 a.m. So please share that if you know any families that can benefit. Thank you.
Suzanne?
Okay. Let's see. We'll start with police. This is a notice for any Kia owners in the city of Erie. If you are a Kia owner with vehicles between 2011 and 2021 with steel turnkey ignitions, this is important safety information, you are encouraged to attend a steering wheel lock giveaway. This is being sponsored by the police department. It will be on April 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. If you would like more information, you can call Sergeant Chris Clement at 814-870-1248. That's only for a very specific part of the population. In general, from the police department, last week there were 1,070 calls for service. One thing that's really caught my eye with last week's stats was that there were 3 juveniles involved with shootings in the past month alone, a 15-year-old and 2 17-year-olds. So I think we really need to be looking at models from other cities. Philly is looking into some gun safety legislation that they can pass at the city level. I encourage the city to do that as well. We have to look at these root causes of violence and what opportunities we're giving for our youth. I know all of us have created and work with youth in so many different ways. The CDC puts Erie at a 5-time higher risk for gun violence simply because of our child poverty rate. I think there's many conversations we need to be having around living wage ordinances, basic income pilots, child care vouchers, things that we can do to ensure that our 15 and 17-year-olds are not getting their hands on a gun and potentially killing someone. So that really shook me this last week. Fire department, April is recruitment time. If you are interested in learning more, please visit efd.erie.pa.us. Last week there were 143 calls for service, 101 of those being EMS. Also a reminder, as we have our first 70-degree day, there are open fire rules in our city, so please be aware of those. They were updated 2 years ago, so if you haven't read them, give them a review. There's limited hours, winds have to be under 10 miles an hour. All that information is available on our city websites. Additionally, I had a really good meeting with our head of county human services to learn a little bit more about our mental health services and how we can coordinate that between city and county.
I'd like to remind everyone that the 988 line is now not national. It's the suicide prevention line. So if you are in a mental health crisis anywhere in the U.S., you can call 988 instead of 911. Erie is fortunate. We are one of 13 regional call centers for the state of Pennsylvania. So those services are ready, available for anyone who needs care in that way. Additionally, I attended the Water Authority. They have their annual water quality report is now available to the public. I encourage folks to check that out. They are going above and beyond in some ways, doing voluntary testing for PFAS, which are forever chemicals that can be in our water. They found no traces of them, so basically we have great water here. So we got to protect that. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to the LGBTQ+ community. On Friday, myself, Mayor Schember, and many other members of the community attended the Trans Family of Northwest PA International Transgender Day of Visibility March at Perry Square. It was a really beautiful event, especially given all of the violence and hate that is coming out of so many states, Florida, Tennessee, making members of our community, our neighbors, discriminated against to a level that we just really can't imagine. And so I'm grateful to be in Erie, grateful to be in Pennsylvania where we are not seeing that. So we need to stand up for the most vulnerable at all times. And that's my committee report.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I don't know why I didn't remember this until just now, but I asked you a few days ago when we were looking at the different changes in personnel and stuff. They change certain people from management to cabinet.
Yeah.
Did we ever find out what that meant?
I did not. Did you notice that it was all public safety? Okay.
Maybe Renee can tell us.
If it was just the police chief and the fire chief. So in the past, there used to be a director of public safety who was in the mayor's cabinet. The cabinet consists of only the department heads. Under Mayor Schember, we eliminated the director of public safety, and so rather than being bureaus, police and fire are their own departments. We refer to them as the Erie Police Department and the Erie Fire Department. And so both of the chiefs are cabinet level. They are department heads.
Okay.
Yep, it was just an oversight.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, as far as mine, I kind of covered a little bit of it with the short-term rental. I've been sort of hustling around trying to make sure that 330 is updated for rental registration. Some of the high points that we're looking at are making sure that penalties are strong enough for short-term rentals when they're violating the ordinances that we set. Making sure that the insurance levels are up to a 2023 standard. Because as of now, some of those have not been updated for a while, and plenty of things are more expensive nowadays. And then making sure that things are properly posted. So as our one neighbor Dom was talking, making sure that stuff is posted visibly for the community. Once we have those all up to speed and in draft form, I expect to be moving that ordinance forward. But that was a fair amount of work the last couple of weeks. As well as securing other spots where there was concerns about zoning board, so we made an appointment there today as well with a well-qualified candidate. Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski, for that. In addition to that, sort of jumping into, I was looking at public safety issues. Particularly, I met with the CEO of Emergicare with some curiosity about how some of our numbers are working. Mainly because the county folks complain about us a lot. Yeah. So I got their numbers and I see what kind of calls we respond to in mutual aid and what we receive. I'll tell you, we're the ones that are carrying the load here. We are providing mutual aid at almost double the rate of what we're receiving it. And he's breaking down the numbers for me further. I haven't received them, but the feel on the matter before providing me the numbers is that our ALS, our advanced life-saving provisions, are at a much higher rate than what we're, so as we're providing 2-to-1, giving to receiving, the advanced life savings is even higher for what we're providing. When somebody has a matter of actually having paramedics keep them alive, we're the ones going to Northeast for that, more likely than them coming here for discomfort. So I'm going to get the firmer numbers on that, but as of now, on the raw data of just the turned calls and mutual aid, it's about 2 to 1, and in some years, 2020, it was almost 10 to 1. So I'm a little more happy with what we're seeing out of this, and while we receive bills from surrounding municipalities for them providing mutual aid that we're not paying. I think it's almost a mockery to the system, considering how much we're carrying the weight of the surrounding community. So Erie City residents should, as they see the failing public safety in our surrounding areas, they should rest a little more assured that we're literally doing it better than anyone. Especially, we do a lot with Mill Creek. Mill Creek takes a lot of the West County. It's the East County that we seem to be really, really carrying the load on. So that was an exciting meeting. We received a lot of services from Emergent Care without any cost. They waive the standby fees for our SWAT, fire, and events, whereas they bill for other entities on that. Those are my two big heavy lifts this week, the last 2 weeks were updating 330 and looking at some public safety issues, both of which are going to be continuing to be work. April 11th is the Seawolves home opener. And I think probably half of us will be there if, based on previous year's turnouts, and then most of us will be there. Yeah, even if it's snowing. Otherwise, that's everything from me. Moving on to Controller's office. All right. Solicitor.
Nothing to report.
Chief of Staff.
I just have 3 quick items. The recruitment is now open for the Erie Police Department, and as Councilwoman Faulkner mentioned, Erie Fire Department will be opening shortly as well. We will be having a press conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to once again announce the details for that and direct people to the appropriate place to apply. We're also having a joint press conference tomorrow at 11 a.m. regarding the 2024 eclipse. For those of you who aren't aware yet, it's April 8th of 2024. We will be in the path of totality, which won't happen again until the year 2144. And they're estimating a potential 200,000 or more visitors to Erie. So we have a whole team of public, private, civic organizations that are meeting to prepare for that. And then finally, as part of the Infinite Erie homelessness team that Deb Smith and I have been involved with, we are preparing to release an RFQ, a request for qualifications from potential developers of a permanent supportive housing complex that would take 35 to 50 of our chronically unhoused who have the deepest service needs and provide housing for them. So that RFQ is opening this week, and we'll be sharing that out to our social media channels as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I meant to piggyback off of something Ed had said, so I'll adjourn her in just a second. But last night we got our recommendation from Green Garden, and it's just it's very significant that we have that we're part of the conversation before getting to the recommendation stage. I know there had been some emails kicked around earlier that as far back as February, and some other meetings with other topics that that would be helpful for City Council to be a part of those conversations. I know last council meeting we unanimously reversed a decision. So we do work as an independent body that that has that as we see Green Garden complaining about hearing one thing on Friday and another thing on Monday, clearly there's some discussion happening before we get to the recommendation stage that I believe council should have a bigger part of. And having, with the context of reversing decisions, I always like being a part of the conversations before we get to that point. So, anyways, anything else for the good of the order?
Well said, Perez.
Meeting adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 11:19 a.m. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon.